to listen to the Lap Traffic Podcast.
What is up, Lap Traffic Nation? Welcome to episode 203 of the Lap Traffic Podcast. I am your host, the Professor Brandon Crowd. Hope you all had a fantastic weekend. Man, wow. Busy weekend, busy Tuesday. Man, you know, not a lot of news came out today, but big news came out today. Get to that here in just a minute. Man, another action-packed weekend up here between watching racing, meeting up with some friends Saturday, which is always fun. Watching the inevitability. That is, the Lions implosion is always a great way to start off a Sunday afternoon with a second inevitability that Talladega is going to cause a bleep show at some point in time. Not to mention a power outage. At our old house, it's funny. At our old house, I didn't know we would lose power as consistently as we did. So it was worth the investment on a generator to, power up fridges, and all that kind of good stuff. The new house, all the power lines for the most part are underground. I'm like, sweet, should rarely lose power. Well, Saturday we lost power for about an hour in the afternoon as a squirrel fried itself on a wire. And Sunday, a pole that feeds the power lines to the sub, the wires that go underground, caught on fire. So fortunately, I was able to, during the last red flag, get an Uber, get to the local bar, and catch the end of the race before my phone died. And, it was salvation. So, but man, what a disaster of a clusterclunk that was on Sunday. Get to that, of course, later on. Big things happened Friday night, Lap Traffic Nation, and that was, of course, hitting 5,000 followers on Twitter. What a milestone. So freaking awesome. And definitely got more on that during the social media segment later tonight. That round of applause is not for me. That is for you guys, because you guys definitely kicked some ass in helping get to 5,000 followers. So thank you. And like I said, more on that later tonight with some winners of some stuff and all that good stuff. If you missed last week's show with Fox's CJ Wolliver, make sure you go check that out. Had a great time with CJ. And I can promise you that he will be back on. That's for sure. And this week, bonus show Thursday. Haven't done one in a while. And thanks to the wonderful suggestion from the voice of the Waiver on hotline, Andrew Cancy. There you go, sir. How is that for an early show plug? Sherwin from the PETM podcast and I are going to do a bonus show this Thursday night, breaking down, talking about the 2021 schedule. Gonna have some fun, so be on the lookout for that later in the week. But can't look too far ahead because there is a great show tonight, and I'm very excited about it because it's something a little different this week. So NASCAR reached out to me a couple weeks ago, and yes, I was excited to get an email from NASCAR. Let me just tell you that. Let's start there. I was beyond elated to get an email from NASCAR. But anyways, I said, hey, would you like to talk to Caryn Grant? She's leading NASCAR's diversity and inclusion division. She's from your home state of Michigan. So I'm like, of course, hell yeah, I want to. So I'm going to have Caryn on here in just a second. But got to run the lineup down. So Caryn will be on here in a minute. Full recap of the melee, if you will, that went down at Talladega in all three series, Truck, Xfinity, and Cup. Social media shout outs, some winners for some giveaways announced as well. Aaron Studwell will be on to talk about a slew of things, from racing to football to Christmas lights. And I guess we'll have to talk about the Charlotte ROVAL weather as well. A full segment for Lucky Dog and Lapdown. You guys came strong with that one, which I'm excited about, in fantasy to close it out. So, all right, let's get this thing rolling. Let's get Caryn Grant from NASCAR on the line. All right, Lap Traffic Nation, joining me on the line, making her first appearance on the Lap Traffic podcast. She is leading the charge as NASCAR's manager for diversity and inclusion. She's worked in journalism, sports, news media, where she's even had the opportunity to meet President Obama. I already know how awesome she is because she's from Michigan. Welcome to the Lap Traffic podcast, Caryn Grant. Caryn, what's going on? How are you?
I'm doing well, Brandon. How are you? I'm glad to be here speaking with you.
I'm so excited. It's going good. It's a Friday afternoon, which is great. 5 o'clock happy hour is right around the corner, so I'm looking forward to it.
Exactly.
So Caryn, I mentioned before we started, this could be a little bit of a unique interview for the show, which I'm excited about. A little bit behind the scenes, behind that lens on NASCAR and how they want to take charge on diversity and inclusion, which is going to be awesome. But before we get to that, you and I grew up in each other's backyards almost, which is crazy. Talk a little bit about your time in Michigan, where you grew up, and how often do you get back here and all that good stuff.
Yeah, definitely. So I was born in Detroit, but I spent most of my childhood just outside of the city in West Bloomfield. And since graduating from high school, I've moved around quite a bit. I attended college in Washington, D.C., lived in Georgia, North Carolina, and now I'm in Florida. But my whole family still lives in Michigan, and it definitely will always be home. And actually this year, amid all the craziness of COVID-19, I've probably spent more time in Michigan this year than I have since I graduated from high school and moved away and kind of taking advantage of the opportunity to work from home in Michigan rather than where I'm based in Central Florida. So while, even when I'm in Michigan, I've largely been indoors during my time up north.
Yep.
Nice to kind of reacclimate myself to the area and take in things like the transition into fall and the leaves changing and things that I don't get down south.
Sure.
So.
Now, West Bloomfield, is that closer to Telegraph or is that closer to Woodward?
It is closer to Telegraph.
It is closer.
I'm
okay.
sorry. Yes, Telegraph. Yes.
Telegraph. Okay. Well, I knew it was one of the two. And so where I was going to go with that, growing up in that area, the Woodward Dream Cruise area and all that, and people love or hate it. So I was curious if you were closer to Woodward, if you were a fan, if you ever went to and took part in that festivity in August there.
Oh, absolutely. So actually, towards the end of my high school career, my family actually moved to Bloomfield Hills. So still technically closer to Telegraph, but in the direction of Woodward.
Sure.
And my father worked for Chrysler back in the day. And yeah, the Dream Cruise is definitely something that we would go if we could participate by, cruising ourselves. Absolutely. And if not, just, lining up along the street in Woodward and taking in all the beautiful cars and, one of the great things that makes Detroit unique.
Absolutely. That's awesome. So, Caryn, you've got some specialized degrees that kind of led you to what you're doing now, which we'll get to that in a minute. But talk a little bit about your education and what's led up prior to you at NASCAR.
Yeah, so I attended Howard University for undergrad, and I majored in journalism with a minor in sports administration. I grew up playing sports. I think Detroit is a great sports town.
Wait, hold on. Not to cut you off, but you are so right on that. But are you maize and blue or green and white?
I am maize and blue all the way.
Hail to the victors! Fantastic.
I was afraid of how this conversation may turn if that was the incorrect answer.
I love it.
Yeah, so no, definitely a huge Michigan fan. And then obviously, from the professional standpoint, grew up being, in Bloomfield, not too far from the Pals of Auburn Hills when that's where the Pistons played, and even back further, the Silverdome and Pontiac and things like that. So definitely grew up kind of ingrained in that, and sports was always a huge part of my childhood in my life. So I knew that I wanted to work in sports, and journalism was kind of my way of doing that early on in my career. And I had some really great experiences working in journalism, working in sports, but also covering politics and education. And regardless of where I was working or, what my specific job was at that point, my favorite stories to read and to cover were always those that focused on how sports impacted community and society.
Sure.
And vice. So, I wrote plenty of game stories, working for a newspaper, but those weren't the stories that got me excited to go to work that day. The stories that got me excited to go to work were kind of those feature stories focusing on the people within sports and then how those people in sports can impact the communities in which they live. And I think that kind of carried over once I transitioned out of journalism into working on the business side of sports.
That's awesome. That's great. So, all right, let's fast forward a little bit. What got you? What brought you to NASCAR? And what put that relationship together?
Yeah, so although I covered sports, covered just about every sport imaginable. I even covered cricket one time. I never covered NASCAR or motorsports, and I'm not sure why that is. My last job in journalism was actually in North Carolina. It was in Raleigh, not Charlotte, but still kind of that, heart of motorsports.
Sure.
So I didn't know a whole lot about NASCAR, frankly, until I went to grad school at the University of Central Florida as a part of their DeVos Sport Business Management program. And that program has a focus on social impact through sports, which is why I chose that program. I knew that's exactly what I wanted to do. And it's a MBA and a master's in sports management program. So it's a really great program, but they also have a great relationship with NASCAR being headquartered not far from the campus in Central Florida. And so through that relationship, I got to attend my first NASCAR race, which I realize now is like unheard of, being the Daytona 500. I got to take it in, but I also was slinging hot dogs, frankly. And also through that relationship was able to learn more about the organization and specifically what NASCAR was doing from a diversity and inclusion standpoint. So that really opened my eyes, not only to the sport, like I was aware of NASCAR from a very base level of highlights I would see on, Sports Center and things like that. I could name some of the big names, but I didn't know a whole lot about the sport. And that kind of got me hooked. And part of my job now is introducing new fans to the sport. And kind of what I tell people is, if you like competition, I mean, even if you're not really into NASCAR and motorsports, if you like competitive sports, it doesn't get more competitive than NASCAR. And I think me having an appreciation for sports in general and my kind of the competition standpoint there was really easy for me to fall in love with NASCAR as a fan and also as an employee.
That's awesome. That's great. So, all right, have you been to your home track at MIS, or would you consider Florida more your home track area?
Oh, that's a tough one. I actually haven't thought about that before. So I probably would consider Daytona my home track, just because our office is literally across the street. Sure. So I pass by that track on my way into work every day. But I guess I have had the opportunity to go to Michigan International Speedway as well a couple of years ago. Great. Yeah.
Awesome. So, most of the guests on the show, they're either at the shop, the track, covering the sport. I imagine your day-to-day is a little different than the guys at the shops in Charlotte. So walk us through what your typical day-to-day, is like, trying to get new fans into the sport and working from a diversity and inclusion standpoint.
Yeah. So a lot of what we do is really try to take a step back and look at things from a broad perspective, because diversity and inclusion is something that really touches every facet of everything that we do as an industry, but also, frankly, in life. So it's really great because we get to work with just about every department within the NASCAR organization. So we're working with HR on things like the NASCAR Diversity Internship Program. We are working with our racing operations team on programs like the NASCAR Drive for Diversity program, both on the driver development side and the pit crew development side. We are working with our fan development and marketing team on reaching out to different communities that, may not have grown up watching NASCAR or being exposed to NASCAR, or really have thought of NASCAR as a source of entertainment for them for various reasons, in breaking down some of those perceptions that people may have about our sport. So every day is different, but I think that's kind of part of the fun of what I get to do. I get to do something a little different every day, but also see the impact of what our department does throughout the entire sport.
That's great. So one of the things that diversity, obviously, in today's society is a growing regular vocabulary word from sports, professional, business, all that kind of stuff. I think NASCAR, and at least from what I've heard with, the vernacular through NASCAR, is it's not just diversity, it's diversity and inclusion. And exactly. I would say that maybe inclusion isn't as part of a common vernacular and everyday use. So what makes those two necessary to go hand in hand from a society perspective, and what NASCAR and your goal is with NASCAR?
Yes, I think those two things kind of go hand in hand in terms of what makes it important for society and what makes it important for NASCAR. And so the difference in terms of inclusion is really, in my thought, is being empowered to bring your full self to the table or to the workplace or to the track or whatever it may be, and have the things that make you different or unique being valued. And so diversity in itself is also really key, with just allowing us to have like a larger pool of input and different ideas, people from different backgrounds and have different perspectives. And I think that that truly makes us stronger, both as a society, but then also as a sport. And that can, that goes from our race teams to our fan base to our corporate offices as well.
That's great. No, that's a great way to put that. You mentioned a minute ago, a little bit about stigmas, and they obviously exist. One stigma associated with NASCAR, to make it light, we're the hillbillies, the sport of the South. When we talk about diversity and inclusion, and we look at somebody from a different race than what's generally and typically associated with NASCAR, and I'm going to use the example Michael Jordan, a top-notch all-star athlete, superpower from the NBA. And when somebody like him brings attention to the sport like he's about to do next year, how quickly can something like that positively impact the sport to help lead towards changing that stigma? Because everybody knows who Michael Jordan is. So how big of an impact will that have?
I think that'll have a huge impact. I don't know that it has as much of an impact from a diversity standpoint, just because I think that Michael Jordan, yes, he's, an African-American man, but I think that the name Michael Jordan and the brand that he is just, it's just so large that I think it's going to draw so many new eyes and so much attention to our sport from all different communities. Which is fantastic. I think in terms of having some positive impact and changing the stigma, I think you've already seen a lot of that this year, earlier in the summer, with the attention that has come from some of the stances that our organization has made in June, whether reactionary and then also being proactive with some things, and then also really looking at the growth of Bubba Wallace, stepping up and being very vocal and really being the face of our sport in terms of issues of social justice. But I think it has to be kind of a full family effort. So while, I applaud Bubba speaking up, there's also things that, NASCAR has to continue to do and we're working to continue to do, but we also, need our fans and, it can't just be, Bubba and, a handful of drivers. You really need everyone to come together and continue to help move the conversation forward to make our sport more inclusive and welcoming and just better all around. And I think we're really on the right track in what we've seen over the last few months. I'm very excited.
For sure. No, that's awesome. You mentioned, and you used an interesting phrase there that really just kind of jumped out to me: proactive versus reactive. And, I think the sport has over the years, taken a hit in terms of reacted too late, could have been more proactive. How do you approach what is obviously a very fine line there? And do we want to react or do we want to proact to things? How can you shed some light on those two things as far as diversity and inclusion is concerned?
Yeah, it definitely is kind of a thin line to walk. I think the important thing for us is making sure that all of the actions that we are taking are thoughtful. And so I think that that's one of the reasons that you want to be proactive, right? Because when you're reactive, you have, less time to, whether it's make a statement or make a decision on, what that reaction is going to be. So if we're proactive and we're building into the foundation and ecosystem of our organization, what are our values, and making sure that we're able to carry out those values in every facet of the organization and, make these decisions on, organizations we're going to partner with or, how we're going to make a positive impact in the communities where we race and where we have our offices and things like that. I think that that's really what we're focused on now and what we've been doing and what you'll see more of in the months and years to come.
That's great. I love that. Okay. Around the corner is the NASCAR Drive for Diversity Awards. Talk about your involvement with that, how you've helped that grow, and what that's become. Because I think that's something that maybe is not as out there in terms of
right.
Accessibility and knowledge from the NASCAR fan base.
So the NASCAR Drive for Diversity Awards, it has been mostly internal facing because it's really an opportunity for NASCAR to acknowledge and celebrate our industry partners and those folks within the industry who have really helped NASCAR to push forward our efforts in terms of diversity and inclusion. And I know I mentioned before, it has to be a team effort. And that's why these awards are so important because our department within NASCAR, the diversity and inclusion department, is 4 people. We cannot do it alone. And frankly, NASCAR as an organization cannot do it alone. We need the help of our partners. We need the help of our teams. We need the help of our drivers. Our civic organizations in the communities where we race, our tracks, and all of these different pieces have to come together in order to continue moving the ball forward. And so that's what these awards are all about, is really just celebrating those people who have taken up that charge and, sharing the stories to maybe encourage others to either continue the work that they're doing or maybe step it up a bit to be a part of the change as well.
That's fantastic. I love that. All right. So how about this? For the NASCAR fan that maybe wants to take an initiative, do more than just support the sport by going to the track or watching on TV, what would you encourage the fan to do to help move the sport forward in this area?
I think the biggest thing that we all can do is just continue to be engaged and something that I personally try to do is to put myself in uncomfortable situations. It's very easy for all of us to be siloed, especially, when we're all isolating in our homes and, social distancing and things like that. But getting outside of your comfort zone, and whether it's taking in podcasts or different things on Netflix or TV shows, or even striking up conversations, whether it be virtually, that maybe you would not typically engage with. I think that that's some way that we can all grow personally, but then also sharing those things within our networks. I think it's kind of human nature for a lot of people to surround themselves with people who come from the same backgrounds as they come from, who look like them, who have the same beliefs as them. And that's understandable. But kind of breaking down some of those barriers that we have and exposing ourselves to new ideas, but then also creating an opportunity for us to expose our friends and family to those ideas as well. And I think that's kind of a broader societal answer to your question, but
sure.
I think
that's great.
It can be said within, the NASCAR fan base or the industry and things like that. Again, I really think that sports is kind of a microcosm of society. So I think that a lot of those things kind of just go hand in hand.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I've, taking yourself out of that bubble and being more open for sure. I love that. That's fantastic. All right, Caryn, it's playoff time. There's only 6 races left. I've got to get a pick from you. Who is going to win the NASCAR Cup Championship this year?
I will preface this by saying that I have been with NASCAR for 3 years, and whoever I pick never wins.
Uh-oh.
So I want to apologize in advance, but my pick would have to be Kevin Harvick.
Uh-oh.
He's and I feel terrible now that I've uttered that publicly.
So, all right. We were so on the same page with the maize and blue, which is great. And I'm a diehard Kevin Harvick fan, so I hope you didn't jinx our second.
Oh, there you go. Maybe, yeah. Maybe I'll break the streak this year,
Yes.
but so we'll see.
Oh, that's great. Okay. All right. Last one for you. How can the listeners keep up with you? How can they find you on social media anywhere, anything like that? Or where can they find and keep up to date with what NASCAR is doing from a diversity and inclusion perspective?
Yeah, definitely. So please follow the NASCAR Diversity and Inclusion Department at NASCAR Diversity on Twitter. That's where you will get all sorts of updates on our NASCAR Drive for Diversity drivers and pit crew members, as well as the internship and all of the great things that NASCAR as a whole is doing in the diversity and inclusion space. And we also just yesterday relaunched our website as well. So you can find us on NASCAR.com/diversity.
That's great. All right. Well, I'll definitely be tagging this week's show with that and hopefully draw some attention over to both of those for sure. Caryn, this was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this. This was great. And I think we maybe just, scratch the surface there. So maybe in the off season or something like that, we can get you back on and look to see what NASCAR is doing from a diversity and inclusion perspective for 2021 and get a little deeper maybe.
Absolutely. Would love to, Brandon. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. All right, Lap Traffic Nation, huge thanks to Caryn for calling into the show tonight. Caryn, thank you for doing what you do for our sport. Hope you and the family stay safe and healthy, and we'll talk. All right, Lap Traffic Nation. Wow. This phrase, I don't use it too often, whether on the show. I don't know if I've ever used it on the show, but I don't use it too often in my personal life just because I think it's a phrase that if you use it, it's got to be selective. And Caryn was an absolute breath of fresh air to talk to. Really enjoyed talking with her, getting to know a little bit more on things about NASCAR other than just cars, race teams on the track, at the track, and all that good stuff. So really enjoyed talking with her and definitely look forward to talking to her more because I'm sure there is a lot more. Obviously, there's a lot more to that conversation that could be had. So, all right, let's keep things rolling. Let's get to a little race talk from this weekend at Talladega. All right, we'll start with the Truck Series. I feel like it's been a while since I've done like a full actual race discussion with all three series. The last few weeks, topics from the races have been thrown in a mix on the interviews. But as far as me doing actual race talk, I feel like it's been a minute. So here you go. I don't know if that means you're going to want to hit the fast forward button or what, but here we go. Trucks, Talladega. Let's talk about how crazy it is that the last 5 fall truck races at Talladega have all been won by non-playoff drivers. And that Talladega was the first win for all 5 of these guys. It may not have been their first win when they played spoiler, but all 5 of these guys that did play spoiler, their first wins did come at Talladega. I mean, the odds on that have just got to be astronomical. Be looking for that at your local sports book next year for sure. I wish they would have let them run back to the start on Saturday because I would have loved to have seen a Trevor Bayne who has hopped back in a ride these last couple truck races. Would have been awesome to see if he had anything for Lessard. But if I recall, I think someone was on fire on the track, so I get thrown the yellow so we can get the safety crews out there as quickly as possible. I get that. It's unfortunate that was the case and that we had to throw the yellow. Obviously glad everyone's okay and all that good stuff. But, I feel like we were left wanting a little more there for sure. When we talk about, or at least I know I talk about constantly, the dumpster fire that can be Daytona, Talladega, which is more times than not. I try to look for positives, right? I want to talk about positive. I want to bring positivity with this show and all this good stuff. And with these 2 tracks, that becomes hard to do sometimes because it's inevitability that some guys are not going to be able to keep it clean, but sometimes guys do. And they pick up a few more bucks in the race earnings than they normally would. They get a little extra recognition for their sponsors because of where they finish, and they get to be in the limelight a few extra minutes. So, and we got that with the Truck Series for sure. Only 3 playoff guys finished in the top 10, which means there are guys out there that got extraordinary finishes for their teams. That's the 1+ that when we go to Talladega and Daytona that we sometimes get. Obviously, Lessard picking up the win, Bain in second, Cody with a top 5, Jordan Anderson, a fan favorite out there for sure. 120 starts in the Truck Series, only his 4th top 10, and Kaz Grala, first truck race in almost 3 years, he picked up a top 10. Awesome finishes for some teams that we're obviously not talking about on a consistent basis. So happy to be able to throw some props to those guys for sure. So you guys know I try to look more towards positives, like I said. Plate racing gets frustrating. I was at least able to find some positives here with the truck race. That is going to be a little harder to do as we move forward here with the Xfinity and the Cup race here in a few minutes. But nonetheless, we got to talk about the playoffs.
Playoffs? Don't talk about it. Playoffs?
I have to, Jim. I have to. Truck Series. We dropped Eckes and Gilliland from the playoffs. Creed and Moffitt, obviously, are looking good. There's no doubt about that. 2150, 2145, respectively. But then you get down to third place. So third place, we got Grant Enfinger with 2,118 points, followed in fourth by Austin Hill with 2,111. Fifth, Crafton, 2,108. Rhodes and Smith, 6th and 7th with 2,107. And Ankrum wraps out the top 8 with 2,104, which props to Ankrum. Made the playoffs last year, winning his way into the playoffs. Here he is back up there last year, trying to back up his playoff appearance from last year with an even better season this year. But that said, 3rd to 8th are only 14 spots. Spots, points, whatever you want to say. And we're heading into 3 awesome races for the Truck Series. So it is not settled as far as who's going to get to the Final 4 in the Truck Series. I think I'd pen in Sheldon Creed and Brett Moffitt, but I think 2 spots are up for grabs amongst 6 drivers, and it is going to be fun to watch and see who gets there. That's for sure. All right. Let's talk a little Xfinity Series at Talladega. And unlike the Truck Series, where a bunch of guys in the playoffs did not finish in the top 10, there were 6 playoff guys that did finish in the top 10 in the Xfinity Series, but it was not your usual suspects. It was not Briscoe. It was not Cindric. It was not Allgaier, which led some other guys to pick up a little bit of ground, which was cool to see. You got to talk. How do you not talk about Justin Haley? What a plate racer this man is turning into. Swept Talladega this year in the Xfinity Series. Picked up the win at Daytona in the Xfinity Series as well. Not to mention, I know some of you guys are going to say, asterisks with this one, his rain-shortened win in the Cup Series last year at Daytona. 4 wins across the 2 series, all at either Talladega or Daytona. That is damn impressive as far as I am concerned. We really didn't have the big one, if you will, in the Xfinity race. I know we ended under yellow. Or no, yeah, we did end under yellow. Yeah, we did. I would say from a racing perspective, the Xfinity race was probably the best race of the weekend from actual content that we could classify, at least I know from the listeners of this show, as racing. I don't know what really else to say from a racing perspective this weekend. Briscoe, Haley locked into the next round. Xfinity Series is nowhere near as close as the Truck Series is. I've gone on rant upon that. When you look at the bottom 4, Burton, Brown, Hurst, and Annette, they would really have their work cut out for them to try to point their way into the next round. Burton, he could potentially point his way in. He's only 7 points out. That's obviously possible. I'm actually surprised Burton is where he is, considering as how he has 2 race wins, sitting below guys like Seed and Chastain without race wins. But hey, consistency, right? Brown, Hurst, Annette, would have to win their way into the next round, which means there are no... And to me, there are no indications that's going to happen. Burton is, I think, the only wild card that could maybe point his way in. I think Chastain makes it. So does Allgaier. Sieg's got a 27-point lead over Burton. So I'm not going to be surprised if our bottom 4 stay the bottom 4 as they are. So there's that. Okay. All right. Wow. All right. The debacle on Sunday. Where to begin? When you start a race with 4 cautions in the first, 13 or 15 laps. I mean, that set the tone as to what we were going to get, and it didn't disappoint. Let's start here with the obvious, the finish. The fans want Matty D to get that win. I tell you, he had his second place finish, from last week. Had that stuck, that would have been back-to-back P2s. You can imagine if he had made it through to this round and that P2 would have stuck. I know I'm talking a lot of would-haves, but man, Matt D would be up there if those were the cases. Now, obviously, that's not. I love Matt D. We all love Matt D. I rewatched that replay about 20 times, and I'm between 9 and 11 one way, 11 and a 9 the other 20. He came all forward with the momentum. He didn't have anyone really behind him. He drove down. Man, it's a tough call. It's a tough call. I think he was trying to get some side draft. It is what it is. I've said it 100 times. I hope he gets a second year in the Wood Brothers car, because it's not easy to do what Matt has done, which is switch teams, I think, the last 3 or 4 years. I have to imagine if he gets a second year at the Wood Brothers, the results are going to be even better than what they were this year. And let's look at it this way. I know we all joke about Paul Menard had, family money, right? Menard's is still there, right? No indication that the Menard's money isn't going to be there. Motorcraft, I don't think they're going anywhere. So if we eliminate if we hold constant that sponsorship is there, when you look at what Paul Menard 2 years with the Wood Brothers had accomplished, he had 1 top 5 and 11 top 10s. We're not even done with year 1 for Matt DiBenedetto with the team. He's got 3 top 5s and 8 top 10s. So in less than 1 year, Matt D's gotten better results than what Paul did in 2 years. Based on that alone, like I said, we know the team's got sponsorship money. There's a lot of chatter out there, I think, about Larson coming back. I don't think there's any indication he'd be going there. I don't see how they do not resign Matt D next year. From a pen and paper perspective, it's all there. Matt D's equipment's gotten better and better over the years, and so has his finishes. And to have 3 top 5s and 8 top 10s with a new team, I think speaks higher than 1 win. I saw a thing, Matt said, I hope that my contract doesn't come down to 1 race. And I know we all know wins bring money, and I get that. But if it's a matter of win or not for a ride with the 21 team next year, I don't think that's the case. Matt brings heart. He brings emotion. He brings positivity, and lately been bringing some results. If I had to bet, Matt DiBenedetto's in the 21 next year. Again, not that I know anything. I'm just saying, if looking at it, it just makes sense. So I'm going to go with the fact that he's going to be in the ride next year. Much like the truck race, only 2 playoff drivers finished inside the top 10, leaving room for guys like Ty Dillon, Ryan Newman, Tyler Reddick, who, man, Reddick I know costs and was involved in a wreck early, very early. But, man, he was able to salvage a top 10 out of thing. I mean, that's impressive there. Tough break for Brennan Gaughan. Last race this past weekend, 67 Cup races over the span of 11 years. 67 races, 8 top 10s, 5 of those at plate tracks. Man, he loved going to Talladega and Daytona. And then there's Denny Hamlin, who's becoming Mr. Plate Racer himself with 6 of his now 44 wins coming at a plate race. I thought this thing was going to come down to Harvick and Hamlin because those two dropped to the back, and it was one of those rare times when falling to the back resulted in a payday. Those guys missed a bunch of them. They were back up towards the front. Sunday's race, it wasn't about racing. It was about surviving. We saw that. Did he dip? Same thing I said about Matt in the finish there. Such a tough judgment call. And like I said, I could argue one way or another. I hate to, walk that objective line there. But like I said, I could argue it one way or another. And it's hard too, because I try to be as objective as possible. I can get that emotion and fan and, response and just be like, he did, Matt, I could go all that route, and that's not going to do anybody any good. So it's a tough call. I get it. Now, we got the whole debate about the yellow line. You know, people calling to get rid of it, people calling to keep it. You know, we saw carnage on Sunday. I can't imagine it gets much worse if we got rid of it. Now, from a safety perspective, I obviously don't want to risk safety injury. You know, I know NASCAR, I'm not going to say plays that card because I don't think that's the right terminology. That is one of the reasons behind their justification in keeping it is that it could potentially be a safety issue. But, I mean, man, it's not like we saved money in race cars and all that kind of stuff with what we had on Sunday. So I guess my thought is you know, NASCAR did a hell of a job this year in testing things, doing some new things. I don't think anybody would be upset if, hey, you know what? We're going to try it at one race of the 4 next year and see what happens. And, you know, let's get some data. Let's get some stats and see. And let's roll with those punches. But I don't know that I doubt that's going to happen. So I digress. I'll talk about some standings for a minute. All right. Things are going to get interesting this weekend at the ROVAL because Kurt Busch, from a points perspective, is outside the cut line, but we all know he's got that win, which means right now that Kurt Busch would knock out Kyle Busch. Granted, we've got a full race coming this Sunday, but you know, you also got a couple SHR guys at the bottom who are looking for some wins, who are also some pretty decent road course racers. You got Kyle, who's a road course guy, you know, but he's winless, 21 points back behind Logano. And that's the key thing there is that, you know, because of the fact that Kurt would take that 8th spot there. All right, well, where's the next point spot? That's 21 points behind Logano. You know, so if Logano has a status quo kind of day, you know, Bowman, that's another point. That's 22 points. You know, so we're talking 20 to 30 points to make up if everyone just has a status quo day. That's not going to be easy. So Kyle really needs to just go out there, get the win. I still wouldn't be surprised if he goes and does it. So, all right, real quick, before I wrap up the race talk and all that good stuff, got to talk about the news that came out today about the 48 new driver next year. And it's not somebody new. It's just a switch. It is Alex Bowman to the 48. And man, I think that leaves more questions than it does answers. And that, you know, does HMS, are they going to a 3-car team? What could potentially happen with Kyle Larson? We know there are other teams out there that, you know, drivers are going to be looking maybe to move and do all that kind of good stuff. Like I said, I think it's going to leave more questions than answers at the moment. I think the 48 car gets back to victory lane, if not this year, next year, which that's obviously awesome and exciting. Want to see that 48 car back in victory lane. You know, from all it, like I said, all it does is it just really sparks up a lot of potential rumors and fun topics. You know, silly season is fun for me. I know it's fun for a lot of you guys out there because, hey, it's fun to speculate. It's fun to debate. And it's fun to, you know, hey, I called that back win, right? I'm not going to pretend to do any of that here just because, like I said, I don't know that it does good to talk about potential rumors, so to speak, in that regard from a silly season and driver perspective. I got a couple ideas, but I don't know how they will come to fruition, and I'm just excited to see how it all plays out. For the race talk, I haven't done a full one in a minute. I hope I did well for y'all. All right. It is time for a little Lap Traffic social media. All right, everybody, make sure you check out the website, thelaptrafficpodcast.com, Facebook, The Lap Traffic Podcast, YouTube, The Lap Traffic Podcast, Instagram and Twitter at Lap Traffic PC. Listen to the show on iTunes, Podbean, Stitcher, Google Play, all that good stuff. I mentioned it at the start. Finally hit 5,000 followers on Twitter, which is amazing. Between the 200th show giveaway, prize pack, sheet metal, you guys have been unbelievable with all the retweets, tagging, ratings, new followers. Show's got over 100 iTunes ratings, which is incredible. You know, so for the last few giveaways, I've literally been tracking everybody who follows the rules on an Excel sheet. If I'm at home, I enter them when they come in. If I'm not, I screenshot it on my phone, and then I go through all the pictures. I enter them. that I've just used a random number generator, and whoever is on that line on the Excel sheets, how I've been picking the winner as long as they've, followed the rules, which I'm not putting you in if you haven't. So that hasn't been an issue. So I've got 3 prizes to mail out tomorrow. First, the winner of the Lap Traffic Swag Pack, which includes a rare travel mug, which is awesome. And that's going to Lori at AK Trading. She's a NASCAR fan all the way up in Alaska, which is pretty sweet. I have not mailed anything to Alaska, so that's pretty cool. Then Amy at A is for Amy, big NASCAR fan from Connecticut. She was legit the 5,000th follower. So I just didn't tell anybody I was going to do it, but I knew I was going to send whoever the 5,000th one was a Lap Traffic Swag Pack as well. So that's going out. And the winner, finally, going to a new home. The winner of the Eric Almirola quarter panel is Mark Pryor at NASCAR Rocks MP. Mark's from Vermont, big Bowman, Byron Johnson, Chase Elliott fan, all that good stuff. So congrats there to all of the 5,000 follower prize packs, all that good stuff. I'm going to give you guys a break for a minute because I went hard with the giveaways and trying to get some followers and all that good stuff. So maybe the next giveaway might be on Instagram to help intern Dan pick up some followers over there. A couple new shout outs. Scott at S Felthausen, big racing fan from Kentucky, and Two Crew Kimber at Kansas Kim 88, big Brad Keselowski fan from KC. Welcome to the show, guys. Don't forget about the store on the website, thelaptrafficpodcast.com. Stickers and koozies. I swear I've literally been putting anywhere from 1 to 3 in the mail about every other day, which is sweet. So if you want a free koozie and some stickers, just fill out the contact page on the website, thelaptrafficpodcast.com, and I will get those out to you. Okay, let's see. What's next? Weather. Let's get Mr. Aaron Studwell on the line. All right, Lap Traffic Nation joining me on the line. You can follow him on Twitter at RaceWeather, along with Brian Newdorf at NASCAR_WXMAN, keeping us up to date on all the weather happenings. Welcome back to the show, Mr. Aaron Studwell. Sir, good evening. How are you?
Good evening, sir. I'm doing well, and yourself?
I am good, and you want to know why I'm good? Because we are inching closer and closer to college kickoff for the Maize and Blue.
Yes, I'm excited. It's interesting to see all the articles about how excited, I'll call them kids because they're still generally kids, how excited the kids are to go back and to have this opportunity and not have the season taken away from them, especially with, I could say if nobody else was playing. Right. Yeah. That would be, okay, yeah, I get it. I don't like it. I get it, whatever. But watching Alabama play, watching Coastal Carolina play, or Houston Baptist play. This is about where I've gotten in my football. Right. Yeah. It's your Jonesing. Yeah. Yep. It's good to see him back. And I'm sure that it had to eat at them for a little bit, but you're starting to see polls and odds of saying, what are the odds this team's going to win the national championship? And you have Big Ten teams back in the consideration. Sure. It ain't Michigan, but yes, there are. No, it was, I was actually a little surprised to see Wisconsin and Texas tossed in there. Yeah. Well, not Texas, a Big Ten school. I've just watched them a little bit and I'm like, really? Gotcha. No, yeah, I'm with you. You want to know what I'm kind of bummed out about, and I'm gonna get, as Newdorf would say, I'm gonna get at me on this one. I'm bummed that the Michigan State game is on Saturday, October 31st. And I say that because that's the Saturday and it's Halloween. And I normally, just because I start to put my Christmas decorations up outside on Halloween just to piss people off. And I'm obviously not going to be able to do that because we're going to have some people over and stuff for the game. And so that just throws that. And obviously I'm not going to be in any condition to do that on Sunday with having to watch a race as well. So I'm going to be delayed because of that. But that's okay. That's all right. How long does it take? How long does it take for you to put up your decorations? All right. So I mean, we went. I don't know. I haven't done it at this house yet, but good point. At previous houses, it was a good 4 to 5 hour project. I think you're taking a little time off Friday afternoon. You know what? It's funny you say that because I said to Lindsay, I'm like, I still have I've got
time off requested and submitted for the holidays and all that. And I got my 5 days that I'm rolling. I still have like 5 days to play with. I'm like, you know what? I think I might take the 30th off. That sounds like a pretty good idea to me. So
it's All Hallows. It's All Hallows Eve.
Yes.
Eve.
Yes.
And there's nothing saying that you have to turn them on.
Oh, well, I mean, I would.
Well, no.
Me.
Just your tradition. You can turn it on to just say it works.
Yes.
Give them a night off.
Yes.
Because now you want the unveiling to be that Saturday.
Right.
So honestly, make the unveiling part of the not ceremonies. It's part of the celebration. That's what
I think you just signify or solidify. That's what I was going for. The fact that I'm submitting for that Friday off now.
And I think we're both getting thesauruses for Christmas.
Yes, I'm ready.
The way we're sitting here struggling with words.
Right? Yes, I'm ready. All right. Well, let's talk about a little racing. What'd you think of Talladega this weekend?
You really could not. Okay, from my perspective, the first thing I'm going to say is you really could not have dialed up a better weekend of weather for there.
Fair enough.
And it just made it easy to sit and watch what was, to me, a great weekend of racing. I wanted to throw a couple howevers in here. You know, there was both Saturday races ending under a yellow flag.
Yeah.
I get it. I understand safety. Perfect, 100%. I actually was justifying that Saturday afternoon. Okay. Sunday we had the exact same thing.
Yeah.
We had people going into the wall. I don't remember who was driving the 77, but I was watching the end I'll put 10 laps in air quotes because I started at lap 10, but then they just kind of kept going. Are they still going, or do we have a winner?
I think it ended, yeah.
So under the same logic to say, hey, we had people going to the wall. We need to get safety crews out there. They let them race. And I have a tiny problem with it, but I also understand Cup is Cup, and they had already. And this was NBC, and I know this caused some controversy because it had run so long, pushing it over to NBCSN.
Yeah. You know, my thing with that is like, you know, you can estimate how long a race at Kansas is going to take you, and you're going to be able to do that probably within a few minutes and being able to get that right. Daytona, Talladega, man, you can't, and don't pretend like you can. And you're either in or you're not in, as far as I'm concerned on that. So,
yeah, and if they broke, and I didn't stick with it because I actually went over to NBCSN. So, did they break away for local news? Because I know they had their NFL coverage a little bit later than that.
I can't even answer that because I had lost power and was watching on the NBC app on my phone. So
I'm glad you had your phone charged up.
Yeah, well, and that was close. We were getting close on that. Let me tell you.
I thought NBC did a great job covering the field, racing through the field. Even if you didn't have competition up front, they were showing what was going on mid-pack because it is involving the standings and my fantasy driver. I had a bad fantasy weekend, but my driver, Amarola going out early and then watching everything shuffle around the cutoff line.
Sure.
I thought they did a good job with that. We can talk double yellow line. I know you said earlier you've already talked about this a little bit.
Yeah, go ahead.
I actually watched that little safety training video they had. Do this, don't do this. If you do this, you will be penalized. If you push somebody below it, you may be black flagged. So it was actually very clear in watching it. And then watching the ending again, I understood exactly why things happened.
Sure. I
know the internet blew up. I know that people were upset, and part of it, I think, was just because it's Matt Benedetto again.
Sure.
Again.
Well, that obviously added fuel to the fire there. And the video you're talking about is the video that is shown at the drivers. The drivers meeting over the years has become more of an event versus an actual, things getting accomplished, so to speak. Like every once in a while, you're going to get a crew chief that'll raise their hand or a driver that's going to raise their hand and ask a question. It's more of a formality. It is an extra event, I think, for your big executives and sponsors and all that to, get recognized with the drivers and the crew chiefs around. It's more spectacle, pomp, and circumstance than it is anything else.
But if you're a driver, you better be there.
Right, exactly. Yes, you better be there. Now, I say all that to say, at certain tracks like Talladega, Daytona, you know what? Maybe that video is a little bit more useful than, say, Michigan, for example, where it's cut and dry. You know your blend lines, where you can come in and off the track and all that kind of stuff. Now, I say all that to say that I wonder, and maybe they do, and I just have never noticed or paid attention to this, but, if NASCAR, NBCSN, whoever's holding the race, those Twitter accounts and those social media platforms, if they were to send that out and let the people see that, like you said, you watch that video, you're able to go back and say, hey, I've got a better appreciation for how the race actually ended up being called. Not to say that every fan's going to be as objective with that, but at least it would be out there to say, hey, this is what the driver saw. It's, a lot of the issue, I think, is people think of the inconsistencies, which I get, and I don't disagree with that to a degree. So that, I don't know that would help, but it would, at least for the people that say there's no transparency, at least that would get rid of that part of the argument.
You did hit on an interesting point, because is consistency, because to my memory, and between you and I, we've watched a lot of racing, and so I'll defer if you actually remember a case like this. Do you remember a driver being black flagged for pushing somebody below the line? It has always been the driver's fault. Hey, you went below the yellow line and you advanced your position.
Yeah, I think during a race, I can't name one, but I'm confident I've heard the black flag, on a broadcast before during that, and I know there've been instances, I know Jamie McMurray one year, I know a couple others are coming to mind to where I know it was close and debated at the finish. I think Clint Boyer's finished one, I know there have been instances where that's become the case.
Well, I do remember there have been cases where it was the driver himself who put himself below the double yellow line, and not a case where, Pagano was black flagged twice.
Yeah. Yep. I don't know. Like I said, we could go on. I don't know the right. I don't know the answer. I don't know.
Well,
I don't know the.
Well, I think the answer is what they said. And if we're going to say we're going to have a double yellow line, I think the way that you have the video, you show the drivers, maybe you show the media, and you make it available for them to throw up when we're sitting here debating this, because we do have so many cautions at Talladega. Yeah. But I think we've had race to race inconsistencies, but it was consistently applied in that race.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Yeah, no, I'm with you, man. It's like I said, we could go on for hours with that. But first, all right, before we get to the weather, which we're going to do, everybody make sure you tune in Thursday night. Bonus show. I've been plugging it all night with PETM. We're going to break down the schedule. Aaron, you are going to join at some point on Thursday just to kind of give like a general perspective based on maybe some switches in terms of track movement. We're not going to break down the weather forecast for next year, but you can just maybe give some trends or something like that based on some groupings of racing and locations and all that, and we'll just have a good time on Thursday.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking also if PETM's going to go to that July Atlanta race, I'm going to rain.
I'll tell you what. I know Sherwin's going to listen, but I'll let you tell him that. For sure.
Oh, do not think. And that's like, they're going to go to COTA, Circuit of the Americas.
Yep.
March? Is a March race, I think?
I think so, yeah.
I'm going to try to be there. That is a wonderful facility. I've been to a couple F1 races there. I've also been to Rallycross, which was an amazingly fun. For a European sport, it's really designed for Americans in our short attention spans.
Excellent. Fantastic. All right. The ROVAL this weekend. What you got for us?
Oh, I've got a major hurricane in the Western Caribbean that will wind up impacting the weather this weekend at Charlotte Motor Speedway, ROVAL, Hurricane Delta. Because what have we done? We've gone and run out of the names.
That's funny.
The latest update is 145-mile-an-hour winds. It is going to hit the Yucatan within 24 hours. It's going to then continue on to the central. Current forecast is into the central Louisiana coast Friday night into Saturday morning. Once on shore, it's going to slow up a little bit. It's going to head towards the southeast United States. This is going to put a chance of showers in the Saturday forecast and rain in the Sunday forecast. Probably between the 2 days total, I've got it between an inch or two, probably leaning a little bit more towards the 2. But whatever, this is the one time we do want a rainy forecast because it will race in the rain at the ROVAL.
They got them slicks ready to go.
Oh, yeah. No. Tread is your friend.
Oh, wow. There we go. Oh, man. I mean, hey, why not throw an extra wild card in this as if last weekend wasn't bad enough? Let's throw a rained race in and the playoffs to decide who makes it to the next round. What the hell? Why not? Let's go. I'm going to break the poncho forecast back out here now. All right.
Because there are fans going to be there. Although they'll be sitting in the rain, the temperatures are actually be pretty nice. The highs, low to mid 70s, morning lows around the mid 60s. So, and from earlier, and we're going to have to watch this a little bit too. It was the earlier forecast today did have it as windier at Charlotte on Sunday. So that's something we're going to have to watch too, because if we're talking about 20 to 25 mile an hour winds as well as rain. And we're also going to have to watch for a chance of thunderstorms on Sunday. Oh, that's very low, but I don't want to discount it now. But yeah, rainy, windy, we'll throw thunderstorms to the side because I don't want to worry about the lightning clock.
Sure.
This is going to be a spectacle.
Oh, all right. There you have it, Live Traffic Nation. All right. Make sure you follow Aaron on Twitter at RaceWeather, along with Brian Newdorf at NASCAR_WXMAN. And hey, maybe you can even throw in an update on Thursday when you're back on. Great to catch up with you and look forward to talking with you later in the week, sir.
Sounds good. I will be having show prep fever here. I will be ready for Thursday.
Excellent. All right, man. We'll catch you later.
You will. Talk to you soon.
Bye. All right, Lab Traffic Nation, I am excited for this. It is time for this week's Lucky Dog and Lap Down picks. All right, I'm going to let you guys in on a little secret to the show sheets here. Everybody, it makes fun of me because everyone knows I got pages upon pages of show sheets. So over the years of doing this, I used to literally just type out everybody's, Twitter handles and all that and the responses. But a lot of you guys are weekly responders, right? So I don't need to type out your names each week. So I literally kind of just keep the constant people that are constantly replying. Maybe you might be on 1 week, off one, whatever it may be. But so that started out as a page of just Twitter handles, and then I just plug them in as you guys send them in. Well, that page has expanded to 2 pages now. This week's show, with all of the responses and first-time responses and some of the people that didn't, I'm up to 3 pages of Twitter handles that get tweeted, that get printed out on the show sheets. And the waiver on calls this week were absolutely amazing. So that said, I'm going to get into this. Real quick, my lucky dog, Kurt Busch, because at the moment he's knocking little brother out, and another lucky dog to all the new responders to the segment. So that's that. Lap down plate racing. Let's get to your responses. Scott at 1985 Wagner's a lucky dog for the Cup. This is a tough one. Lucky dog Hamlin. It looks like he passed the 37 when he was below the line. Lap down Matt D for the second to be given 21st. CJ at CJ LaPearl 24's lucky dog Denny, and how he always seems to steal the win. Lap down NBC for cutting the coverage to NBCSN and OT, and NASCAR for the yellow line rule needs to be more consistent. Rowdy at the Rowdy Dragons lucky dog, the 11 car of Denny Hamlin with a new definition of Lucky Dog. Lap down for Rowdy, the yellow line rule, too much controversy. Eddie at Eddie underscore EG3's Lucky Dog. Ryan Priest, great run, very much needed, finished in the top 10. Lap down, yellow line rule. There's just too many hoops to jump through when it comes to this confusing rule when it comes to speedway races. Matt at Matt X Kolb's Lucky Dog is Denny Hamlin for winning the race. Matt D deserved the win. May have played out differently had he not gone down on the 24. Anyway, would have avoided the penalty, and we may be having a different conversation. A lap down for NASCAR for not enforcing the rules consistently. Kristen at K Hogling 79's Lucky Dog Denny for NASCAR's ruling he didn't break the yellow line rule. Matty D should have had that win. Lap down. NBC choosing to cut the coverage and go to NBCSN. If you're going to broadcast the race, keep it on the same channel. Yeah, I hear you. There is a trend here for sure, folks. Colin at Colin _ cars going to Denny Hamlin, reminding us that he is a real championship contender. Lap down going to Matty D. What does a brother got to do to win? Extra Lucky Dog going to Justin Haley. Kid is the real deal. Wins Saturday and a great run on Sunday. Yeah, he finished 11th on Sunday. I said earlier, dude's going to be a plate racer. Jess at Iowa NASCAR fans, Lucky Dog, the 88, way to salvage it. Lap down, what a bleep show. So many options. NBC for wanting late starts, then moving the race for local news when it runs over. NASCAR for not being consistent and having straight chaos with their calls and rules. Mick at Godux42 _ Mick, Lucky Dog NASCAR. Mick thinks they got the call right at the end, and Mick never thinks NASCAR is correct. Mick's lap down, let the 40 best stock car drivers in the world, which was in quotations, figure it out and get rid of the yellow line rule. Mick, I love you so much, man. Let's see here. Jeff at JBev1789's Xfinity Lucky Dog, Justin Haley. Really cool to see him coming into his own and being a contender. Lap down, unfortunate luck for Zane Smith in the truck race, but hell, extra Lucky Dog for still advancing. Jeff's Cup picks Lucky Dog, Bowman, and Greg Ives and the entire 88 team to gain 13 points with all of the damage and being in 3 wrecks. Jeff's lap down absolutely goes to NASCAR and NBC for switching the race to NBCSN with no warning and not letting cord cutters see the end. Pixie at Pixie Doodle, Lucky Dog Hamlin, benefiting from running below the yellow line after he could have gone back up. Lap down, NASCAR for that BS call. David at DFlint14's Lucky Dog. Dale Jr. for speaking what we've all been thinking for years. Important to note, he benefited from the same no call in 2003 at the spring race. Lap down Stenhouse for not even getting a chance at one of his best tracks. And Brennan Gaughan, hate to see that that this was his last race. Brian at Storm and B81, lap down his NASCAR on that BS call. Hamlin was legit under the yellow line and passed. Mike at Mad Mike Nebbia, lap down his NASCAR themselves for not penalizing Denny Hamlin. Lisa at LL Chillin' Nana's Lucky Dog. I'm sure there is one, but I can't think of one right now because I'm petty. That's great. I love that. Lap down Matt D because he got screwed. Braxton at Braxton Chris, Lucky Dog. Ty Dillon, what a great finish in the twilight of Germain Racing's existence. Lap down Matty D. Lap down NASCAR and the garbage yellow line rule. It's gotten to the point of being like the NFL was a few years ago about what is a catch. Chad at Chad Allman 10's Lucky Dog Hamlin for NASCAR not penalizing him for passing Byron on the apron. Lap down NASCAR on their judgment of these rules. And Jaden at Jaden Smith, Lucky Dog underdogs like Cody Ware, Timmy Hill, and Brennan Poole. Lap down NASCAR and the yellow line rule inconsistency. Woo! All right. Hell yeah. I love that. That needs to be like that every week. All right. Those are your tweeted responses. Let's get to your calls on the Wave Around hotline.
Matt at Camper News Net. Oh my goodness, what a wild race at Talladega for the Cup Series today. I don't remember the Cup Series racing at Talladega and it being this wild. It was absolutely insane what I saw today. From the drop of the green flag with 3 cautions within, I think, 10 to 15 lap span in the first half of the race, and it was just absolutely a wild race today. And anyway, get on with it. My lucky dog for this week is going to go to Ryan Newman. He had a top 5 finish today. Especially after what happened at Daytona earlier this year, to come out to Talladega and score a top 5 finish. It was incredible. So glad to see Ryan Newman able to get that finish, especially after, what happened earlier this year. I'm very glad to see Ryan, come out and have a good finish today. And for my lap down, I got 2 lap downs. First of all, for the Denny Hamlin Matt Benedetto finish. I really honestly feel for the situation with Denny Hamlin, I do feel that Denny Hamlin absolutely, without a doubt, did go below the yellow line. He did not, and I mean did not, make any sort of contact that forced him to go below the yellow line based on the replays, at least I saw. And I feel that Denny Hamlin, I'm sorry to say this, should have not been the winner of this race. And for my other lap down is going to go to Matt Benedetto. He was originally scored as the second place finisher, but unfortunately, and it was obvious, he did force somebody below the yellow line. And, that was something that was called all day by NASCAR, twice with Joey Logano, and, Matt Benedetto had a very good run going and, forced someone below the yellow line, and that cost him, second place finish. Really feel bad for Matt. He's had a lot of bad luck this year, especially, we don't even know if he's going to be coming back in the 21 next year. So just bad luck for him after last week having a great finish, and hopefully he'll bounce back and, have a great day next week at Charlotte. So anyway, with that, have a great week. As always, Brandon, Lap Traffic Nation. I'll talk to you next weekend after the final race of the round of 12 at the Charlotte Roval. Thank you so much, Brandon. Take care. Bye.
Oh, hey, Matt, man. Love the enthusiasm. I could feel the enthusiasm as I was reading the tweets a moment ago, and something tells me that enthusiasm is going to carry through these next 4 calls on the Wave Around Hotline. You guys brought it, and I love it. All right, let's get to the next call.
What's going on, Brandon? This is Kevin from Republic, Missouri. I had to call in after that one. First of all, my lucky dog goes to myself for getting some Kansas Speedway tickets here in a couple weeks. I'm excited to go up there after watching that race today. I'll be sure to take in my lap traffic koozie too, take some pictures at the track as well. So, but my lucky dog and lap down, I kind of like a double pick here, goes to this James Davison guy. I don't understand why a guy who's 80 laps down just, he caused. I mean, the race was going so good, and all of a sudden, boom, he gets a caution, and then they go to overtime 3 times or 2 times, whatever it was. And I guess at the same time, my lucky dog pick goes to him, because without him causing the caution, then we wouldn't have had the great finish that we just had there. But my other lap down one goes to this yellow line rule. Like Dale Jr. was saying after the race, why do we have to have the yellow lines on the track, or to decide on penalties and whatnot? Because we kind of spent 5 minutes there wondering who won. So those are my thoughts. Great race. Love listening to the podcast. Can't wait to hear everyone's reactions this week. See ya.
Oh, Kevin, thank you so much for calling in. Appreciate you, brother. And yes, you get that lap traffic koozie out to Kansas. Absolutely. I mean, yellow line rule. I've beat it to a dead horse, I think, tonight. So I'll leave that there. Appreciate you calling. Keep the calls coming, man, for sure. Appreciate you. All right, let's get to the next call on the Wave Around Hotline.
Hey, Brandon. It's Kathleen at KHI Fan. I'm sure nothing I say during my phone call is going to be any different than what everybody's been seeing on Twitter and the other phone calls you might have gotten today, but here it goes. Yes, I would have liked Benedetto to have gotten the win, but I agree that it looked like in his block attempt he did push Byron down, so his penalty is fair, and he wouldn't have won, and I'm okay with that. The issue with Hamlin, on the other hand, is so egregious, it makes my blood boil. Once Hamlin went below the line, he stayed down there well beyond any avoiding a wreck time, and they weren't even wrecking, I don't think, that close to him to not have enabled him to be able to move up any quicker. And also, he could have lifted when he came back up, giving some or all the positions he gained back. And, it's just making me so mad. It's just ridiculous. And then what really gets my goat is seeing the tweet from, I think it's 2008, of O'Donnell addressing this very thing about advancing position. It's just complete BS. Get rid of the rule to take out another judgment call out of the equation. Let the drivers be responsible for their own consequences of going below the yellow, and let's just go. My lucky dog this week is going to go to Rafael Lessard for his truck win. Yet again, another, not usual suspect in that series, got the checkered flag. He's had some decent runs, so it's not a completely random super speedway win. So that was cool to see. My lap down is whoever decided to switch the race from NBC to NBC Sports Network with so few laps to go. Would they have done that for any other major sport? I don't think so. So that was really ridiculous, even though I do think a lot of people have that other channel, but whatever, that just sucked. Anywho, I got to go before I get all riled up again. Talk to you later. Bye.
Kathleen, I love it. All right, first of all, I've heard some firsts on this show. I've never heard the phrase "gets my goat" before. Oh, it's fantastic. I love it. I love NBC. I know, I know a lot of listeners, you go and say, hey, Fox or NBC, who'd you rather have? I know a lot of you are going to say NBC. I have friends with both people at Fox and NBC. Love them to death. Love the support that both networks have given to the show. All that to say, I understand people's frustration with that. I am going to be as PC as possible, and I'm going to leave it at that. All right, I got two more for you on the Wave Around Hotline. This one's a quick one. It's Sherwin. Who knew?
Brandon, it's Sherwin from PETN Podcast. I don't even have a lucky dog. I got a lap down. That's NASCAR. They bleeped that thing up as hard as you could bleep it up on the last lap. Come on, man.
I love it. A rare appearance from Sherwin on the Wave Around Hotline. Absolutely fantastic. And make sure y'all tune in Thursday night, a bonus episode with Sherwin from the PETN Podcast. We're breaking down the 2021 schedule. That's all the show's going to be. Maybe a few surprises thrown in the mix as well. But that is definitely what's going down on Thursday. All right, one more for you. You know who it is. It's the voice of the Wave Around Hotline.
What's going on, Left Traffic Nation? Voice of the Wave Around Hotline at Racing Chance, calling in from Talladega. What the was that nonsense? What a typical Talladega race. That race was awful. It sucked. Too many crashes. NASCAR doesn't know their rules. I'm going to get this one out of the way right now. I only got one lucky dog, and that's it. The Yankees. They swept the Indians. Love to see it. They're going to hopefully beat Tampa Bay. Not really optimistic about that either. Lap down, the yellow line rule. Don't mind the crashing. That was complete bullshit. But the yellow line rule, NASCAR doesn't know their own rule. The 21 absolutely should have been penalized. The 11 probably should have been penalized. The 17, they got that call right, but even though they looked more stupid after going back and forth on that call, they screwed that up. The 9 really shouldn't have been penalized because he got forced down there. But it's just they don't know their own rules. So I don't know if getting rid of the line would really work, but they've been so inconsistent with this rule over the years that nobody knows what it is. Same thing last year. I thought Blaney went below the line last year to pass, what's that schmuck? Newman, kidney stones. I thought he went below the line to pass him, but that was a good no call to NASCAR or something. Just, consistency. Know your own rules. The rules are written far too vague, and from my understanding, there's nothing in there that says you're allowed to go down below the yellow line to avoid a wreck. As far as I'm concerned, that's not actually written in the rule book. So the yellow line rules a lot of time. TV, moving channels. I mean, people are going to want to see the end of the race, but you have to have a 4-hour race that starts at 3 o'clock. So can we go back to 1 o'clock start time so we don't have to deal with that bullshit? And lap down, going to be Texas for losing to TCU. Another embarrassment. That team's another debacle, but that's neither here nor there. Looking forward to going back to some real racing at the ROVAL. Love me some lefts and rights. And if the 9 and 88 want to finish 1-2 like they did last year, then hell, I'll be pretty happy with that. So let's hope for a good race next week with no controversy and no bullshit.
Oh, I told you all last week Andrew Cansey was going to bring the heat this week. He brought the heat. That is for sure. I absolutely love it. And it used to be, as you might recall, I used to call in. It's Andrew Cansey and the 20% at Racing Cants. Well, I convinced him to change the at 20% to the wave around, or the voice of the wave around hotline. So that's badass. I love that. All right. Man, what a lucky dog lap down segment this week from the tweets. First timers, some callers, first timers. Oh, man. This segment's for you guys, and you guys came strong this week with your opinions, and I absolutely love it. All right, Lap Traffic Nation, it is time to close this thing out with a little Lap Traffic fantasy. Just a reminder, get your picks in midnight Thursday. Keep the Twitter interaction up and all that good stuff going. Things are heating up. People are feeling the intensity and all that good stuff. We are down to just 12. We got one more week to go, and we're going to be down to 8. And one of those 12, hoping to be one of the final 8, is on the line. It's Jess Rose. Jess, what's going on, man? How are you?
Good. We're just hoping we get a miracle this week in fantasy and I can crawl in there, but it's not looking too good right now.
Well, all right. So listen, man, you were dominating the league this year, dominating, and then the playoff happens.
Man, the regular season was fun. Me and Joe Houston were just playing cat and mouse the whole time.
Yes.
He edged me out for the segment 1 win, and then he edged me out for those bonus points and at the end of the cumulative standings, and now I could really use those 6 bonus points he stole from me.
Absolutely.
We are scratching and crawling and anything we can get right now.
Yes. Well, and bonus points and all that, I just want to remind everybody to, whether you're in the league, whether you're a new listener and plan on joining the league next year, obviously hearing how things go, go to the website, thelaptrafficpodcast.com, click on the fantasy link, and on that page, you'll see a long green button that you can click. It will take you to a survey. I'm here for you guys. I want to make the league for how you guys want the league to be. So go complete that survey. It'll take 2 minutes. Give me your feedback and thoughts so that we can improve the league, the playoff format, all that good stuff for next year. So little plug there. But yeah, man, You're scratching down there at the bottom at 11th. We'll get to the standings here in just a second. Real quick, though, 7 of the 12 players got burned with Almirola this week, only scoring 1 point. But Joel Nolf, he had week high with 122 with Elliott, Haley, and Enfinger. Jess, unfortunately, Joe wasn't available, second place. So you had third place week high. So congratulations, man.
Man, I got third with 91 points this week, and I still lost ground on the bubble. I think I was 24 behind 8th last week, and I'm 28th now.
Yes,
so.
got a little ground to make up, man. Real quick, what did you think of the race in this past weekend?
There's a lot that could be said. Some words probably aren't appropriate for this podcast, but right. I don't know. I think the racing overall, both days, it was intense. You could tell it was playoff racing. I think people were fighting for their lives, and it showed. Saturday, it was pretty disappointing to see both races end under caution, and looking back on it, it probably would have been better if Sunday did end under caution.
Yeah.
and wouldn't have all the other stuff going on with all that. But I don't know. Sunday's finish was just chaotic. There was a lot going on there.
That was they were so close to the checkered flag there. And normally, and I get everyone talk, we could do 2 hours on the yellow line rule, and I get the inconsistency there. But I think what's being overshadowed by the yellow line rule is the inconsistency on when NASCAR sometimes does or does not throw a caution out there. And I think they did, because I think a couple of the cars were on fire. So if they had left and let the rest of the field come back to the checkered, not just the start finish, or at least let the leader take it, then throw it, no time probably really would have been lost with how close they were. But I definitely think there's inconsistency when they choose to and not throw yellows at the super speedways.
Yeah, I agree. I get there's different circumstances with different races and different incidents, but man, because everybody wants to fight about the yellow line rule, and I don't have a problem with the rule. It's the consistency and the officiating is the biggest problem.
Absolutely. I'm with you. And I think, I think everyone was, clamoring on social media to get rid of it. But I think people are clamoring to get rid of it because of the inconsistency. If they're, and I get NASCAR's point too of, each race is a different race, and you just, they got to call it like they see it too. Man, I'm with you. All right. I'm going to hit the standings here real quick. We got one more race to go before we're down to 8. Currently in first, as Jess mentioned, is Joe Houston with a very unlucky 666 points. I don't know. That might come back to burn him, maybe. I don't know. Robert Riggs in second with 658. Brian Hall in third, 641. Matt Camper, 637. Chad Robin, fifth, 634. David James in sixth with 631. Joel Nolf, seventh, 620. Kent Dolphy, eighth with 617. Aaron Studwell and Matt Crowd tied with 10th, 598. Jess Rose, you are in 11th, 592. And Crystal Smoke wraps out the final 12 with 582. So those are the standings. One more to go. It's the ROVAL. Jess, are you ready to make some picks?
Yep, let's get after it.
All right, Lap Traffic Fantasy players, for just the third time ever, we are headed back to the Charlotte ROVAL. This race has provided us with 2 great races the last 2 years. Ryan Blaney winning the inaugural and Chase Elliott picking up the win last year after being involved in an incident early in the race. Does Toyota even it up and give each manufacturer a win at the ROVAL? Can Kyle Busch win his way to the next round? Can Jimmy Johnson play spoiler and pick up a win in what might be his last chance outside of Martinsville? Can the other 2 SHR cars in Boyer and Almirola pick up their first win on the year to advance to the round of 8? One thing is for sure, there will be chicanes and shenanigans this weekend. Wow, what a pun on play on words. Who advances to the playoffs in the Cup Series and the Lap Traffic playoffs? We'll find out. But first, it's time for our picks. Jess, we'll start with you. There's no truck race this week. It's just Xfinity and Cup. Who do you got for the Xfinity Series?
Well, I'm going to have to go a little outside the box. If I was a little higher in the standings, I'd probably go with Cindric, but I'm pretty sure everybody and their dog in the top 8 is probably going to have him, so that's probably not an option.
Fair enough.
You kind of look at Briscoe, and then he's been talking this week on several interviews that they're probably looking at different strategies to get the win, so he's not looking at stage points. So I'm going to go with Ross Chastain and be in the same bandwagon as you.
You know it. Ride him till the end, brother. You know it. All right, over to the Cup Series. Who do you got?
Again, can't go with Chase Elliott. He's going to be a popular pick, and that's who I originally had kind of slated for this. So we're going to go with Truex. Truex has kind of lost his road course stuff this year. I think we've only had one road course, though, this year so far. But hopefully he can pick it up this week, and maybe Chase can have a little bad luck, and we'll see what happens.
Fair enough. You know what? I'm playing for nothing. I'm just going for bragging rights. I'm going with Jimmy Johnson this week. What the hell? Especially with the news that came out today. Got to go with the 48.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Lap Traffic Fantasy players, that is going to do it for this week's fantasy segment. Jess, good luck. I hope you advance, brother. You deserve it because of how well you did. So hopefully you're carried on to the next round, my man.
Hey, if I don't make it, I hope Joe Houston goes up there and kicks some ass and takes home the trophy, because after our dominance this year, one of us deserves to take home the hardware.
Yeah, I'm with you. He's looking pretty good. So we'll see what the Final Four might bring him down the road. So, all right, man, good to talk to you. Maybe we'll talk to you soon.
Yep, hopefully. Thanks for having me.
Of course, man. We'll see you. All right, Lap Traffic Nation, that is going to do it for episode 203 of the Lap Traffic Podcast. Look at me getting one done in under 90 minutes. Barely, but I did. Make sure you check out the website, thelaptrafficpodcast.com. Like on Facebook, The Lap Traffic Podcast. Follow on Twitter at LapTrafficPC. Congrats to the contest winners. Big thanks to Caryn Grant from NASCAR, Aaron Studwell, and Jess Rose for calling in. Don't forget, bonus show this Thursday. And I guess I got to get to work on next week's guests. Don't get caught chasing the lucky dog. Make sure you tune in each and every week to the Lap Traffic Podcast. See ya!